Okay, well, we finished our SOLs, and we still have some days left, and we are not going to do nothing. I'm going to say we're not even going to watch a movie, but you'll see that we do have a couple days at the end where I don't have anything planned. Now, the point of this material is to get you ready for geometry, or to get you more ready for geometry. So all of it is reviewing things that we already did in this class, but are very important to you succeeding in geometry, so we're going to do it again. I'm not going to teach the same kind of long lesson. I'm going to give you a little bit of a review, and then I'm going to give you some worksheets to work on, which will allow me to free up if I have to do some remediation in between now and the end of the year. So I expect we got 8 days left, starting with a B day today. And so it'll be a BA, and I expect that we'll have 4 days of lessons. That means 4 days of a short review, and then you working on worksheets. That'll be the classwork, that'll be the homework, and then we'll get a review day and a test day, and that'll leave us 2 days before the start of exams. And those 2 days can be used for makeup test and retest, and sorting out anything we have to with grades before the end of the year. Okay, so the first day I'm expecting we're going to be solving equations, and what I mean by that is we're going to solve one variable equations, and by solve we mean we are going to isolate the variable on one side of the equal sign by using sometimes distributive property. Sometimes there's combining of like terms to do, and sometimes, usually all the time, there's operations that we need to do to both sides of the equation to isolate the variable. Right? Those operations are the properties of equality that we supposedly knew going into the SOL. Okay, so I'm going to give you these worksheets, and I'm going to do a few from each worksheet to just get you started. This comes from the multi-step equations worksheet, number 1. Solve for x, again, means to isolate the variable on one side of the equal sign. And in this case, the variable is on the right, and it's in 2 different terms. So we need to do something about that. Okay, the right thing to do is to combine like terms. Right? Let me show you the wrong thing to do first, which is what we see a lot. And I'll do it in red because it's wrong, and then I'm going to erase it anyways. But let's say that I thought, well, I need to do something with the lesser of these 2 variable terms. Let me add 6x. And then I'll add 6x here. Okay, what's wrong with that? Right? What's wrong with that is you can't add something twice to the same side of the equal sign. You can only add something to both sides of the equal sign. So this does not follow the addition property of equality. We can't do that. So let's stop that. What should we have done? Okay, I'll put it in blue because it's good. Okay, we should have combined like terms. The like terms are negative 4x and minus 6x. Okay, how do you combine like terms? You combine them by combining the coefficients. What's negative 4 minus 6? Negative 10x equals negative 20. Okay, we still haven't isolated the variable. Next step, well, again, when you see the number which is with x and you need to get rid of it, you've got to think about what's the operation going on between that negative 10 and x. And the operation is multiplication. So how do we undo a multiplication? What's the inverse operation? Division. So I'm going to divide both sides by negative 10. And negative 20 over negative 10 is positive 2. Negative 10 over negative 10 is 1. And 1x we can just write as x. Or I could even write it as x equals 2. So you may not have shown every little step there, but you should be showing most of these steps. As you can see, the worksheets have the answers on them. I'm not interested in you telling me the answer. I'm interested in you showing me the work, and you will not get full credit if you don't have full work for every problem. Okay, so that's the simplest. Okay, we can move on to a little more complicated. This is number 7 on the same worksheet. In this problem, there's variable term and a constant term on both sides of the equal sign. There are not any like terms on the same side of the equal sign. So at this point, we have to start moving terms from side to side. Okay, you could do any one of 4 things at this step and get this problem right. However, what we recommend is you should move the smaller of the variable terms. And in this case, between 5p and 8p, the smaller of the two is 5p. Okay, so how do I undo this positive 5p, right, which is on the left-hand side with minus 14? I have to subtract. This is a positive 5p, so I have to subtract 5p. But if I subtract it on the left, I have to subtract it on the right, right? Subtraction property of equality. Subtract. Okay, on the left, the 5p's cancel. Right, I still have negative 14. On the right, 8p minus 5p is 3p. Okay, now at this point, it's a 2-step equation. I need to isolate the p on the right. It's being multiplied by 3, and there's another term, plus 4. Okay, I should get rid of the other term first. Right, minus 4, minus 4. So negative 14 minus 4, negative 18. Right, if you have any issues at all with, negative 14 minus 4, put it in the calculator. Get it right. Okay, on this side, cancel. Okay, 3p equals negative 18. Let me switch sides. Symmetric property. And then I'll divide by 3. So p equals negative 6. Okay, and then this is probably about as complicated as it might get. Looks like we've got to do some distributive property first. Remember, when you do that, you've got to multiply both terms inside the parentheses. Negative 12x minus 9 plus 24x plus 4. Okay, now I need to combine like terms on the same side of the equal sign, right? Negative 12x plus 24x is 12x. Negative 9 plus 4 is minus 5. Okay, we've got to isolate the x on the left. Again, it's being multiplied by 12 and being subtracted by 5. So since the 5 is a different term, let's get rid of the other term first. Add 5. $12x equals 48. And then last step, divide 12. X equals 4. So these are pretty straightforward multi-step linear equations. You can isolate by doing some basic operations. Okay, now we're going to look at proportions. Right, proportions are something that we didn't do that much because it's not really in our curriculum for Algebra 1, but you're going to do them in Algebra 2, in geometry. Right? You're definitely going to do them, and it's kind of assumed that you already know this from things that you did before. Right? A proportion is when you have one fraction equals another fraction. And in general terms, I've written down A divided by B equals C divided by D. Okay, that could be, if I was using numbers, something like 1 over, I want to make this different, 3 equals 4 over 12. Okay, now what should always be true is that if you cross multiply, right, multiply the numerator of one fraction times the denominator of the other, that it should equal the other pair, right? A times D equals B times C. AD equals BC. I mean, see how it works over here. 1 times 12 equals 3 times 4. And that is certainly true, right? 12 equals 12. Then that'll always work. So that gives us a really strong way to solve a proportion, especially if the variable is in the denominator. We're going to want to remember how to do this process. So here's one. Here's number 4 on the Solving Proportions worksheet. And you can see that the variable n is in the denominator. Okay, so I need to cross multiply. 7 times 7 equals 8 times n. I'll write it like this. 8n equals 7 times 7. 8n equals 49. Divide by 8. Divide by 8. N equals. And 49 over 8 as a fraction cannot be simplified. It can be turned into a decimal, and as you'll see on the worksheet that you've got, they actually already did this. So let me just turn it into a decimal. We'll see how it's the same as what you got on the answer sheet. 49 divided by 8. 6.125. So remember, you've got the answers on your worksheet. You need to make sure you're getting this exact answer when you do the work and show all the work. Okay, number 12 on the same worksheet. Okay, now we've got variables in both denominators, but it's still a fraction equals a fraction, a proportion. So cross multiply. Cross multiply gets rid of the fractions, right? In one step, you don't have to deal with fractions anymore. And for most of you, that's a good thing, right? So cross multiply. 9 times k equals 6 times k minus 7. 9 times k, 9k, equals 6k minus 42. Okay, now at this point, we've got no like terms on the same side of the equal sign, so it's time to start moving terms side to side. Pretty straightforward. We need to subtract the 6k from both sides. All right, now we have 3k equals negative 42. Divide by 3. So k equals negative 14. Okay, cross multiplication. And one more, really no more complicated than the last one, but this time the variables are in the numerator and denominator of one fraction on one side of the equal sign. Still, because it's a fraction equals a fraction, I am going to cross multiply. 9 times p plus 10 equals 8 times p minus 7. 9p plus 90 equals 8p minus 56. Subtract 8p from both sides. Again, why subtract 8p? Because 8p is the smaller of the two variable terms, right? 8p is less than 9p. Come on in. Again, 8p is less than 9p. That's why you subtract 8p from both sides. So now we have 9 minus 8p is just p, 1p, plus 90 equals negative 56. Okay, subtract 90. And I'm going to get p equals negative 146. Okay, so that's the second. Actually, there's 2 worksheets that are solving proportions. All right. And then last, these are more solving what we're calling, simple linear equations. It's actually, it's not going to be proportions, but there could be some variables in the denominator. That's probably the thing that makes this a little bit different. Okay, so this is number 2 on that simple linear equations worksheet. Okay, p minus negative 5 equals 13. Okay. Minus a negative should always be simplified to plus. Okay, before you do anything, right? Don't try to add negative 5 to both sides. You're just going to get things confused. When you see a minus a negative, make it a plus. And subtract 5. B equals 8. Okay? I mean, honestly, minus a negative, I'll use 5, equals 5. Plus a negative means minus 5, means turn that into a subtraction. Okay, in fact, I should have written this one like this. Equal means plus 5. It's an addition. Plus a negative means minus. I mean, both of those situations, I would write them, change them. Don't leave a plus a negative or a minus a negative. Make it what it is. And I think this is my last example. But again, it shows that it's not a proportion, so we can't cross multiply to get that a out of the denominator. But we can solve it. First, we got to focus on where's the a, right? The a is here. And there is another term on that side of the equal sign that we need to get rid of. And that is this negative 9. So let's add 9 to both sides first. Okay, these cancel. And we've got 36 divided by a equals negative 5 plus 9 is 4. Now, this could be the precarious step where you're like, okay, now what am I going to do with this a? But again, since we know how to cross multiply, if I put this 4 over 1, now I do have a fraction equals a fraction. So this is the place where I can cross multiply, right? 4 times a equals 36. So divide by 4. A equals 9. And one thing that I didn't say about any of these, but in a way, I mean, you've got your answers on the worksheet, so you kind of know. Your check is just going to be see whether you got the answer right. But on any of these problems, if you didn't have the answer staring you in the face, you could always plug it back in to make sure that it's right. Even at this place, if I just went up to this far, right? 36 over 9 equals 4 over 1. Okay, 36 over 9 is 4, so that seems right. Okay, check. So the homework is going to be to finish the worksheets. Okay, this lesson has taken, 15 minutes? So you got an hour and 15 minutes to work on them in class. I mean, you can work together. You need to show your own work. Everybody's handing in their own worksheet, and it needs to have all their own work. But you don't have to work in isolation. I mean, you can help each other, and let's make sure that we understand these things before we send you off to geometry. And, you know, just as an added incentive, that when we have our test on this stuff, I'm going to use these worksheets to come up with the problems that I'm going to test you on. So if you know how to do all these problems on these worksheets, that test is going to be no problem at all. Okay, so go ahead and work on the worksheets.